Wealth is misunderstood. Most people think wealth is money. Numbers in a bank account, assets, cars, status symbols. But money is not the origin of wealth. It is the result. Wealth begins somewhere most people never look. It begins in the mind. Before money shows up in your life, your thinking shows up in your behavior, and your behavior builds your outcomes. If your internal world is chaotic, your external world will reflect that chaos. If your internal world is disciplined, your external world begins to organize itself around that discipline. Most people chase money without ever building the mindset that can hold it. And when money finally arrives, it leaves just as fast. Because wealth without mental structure collapses. Look around. How many people earn more but still feel broke? How many people receive opportunities but sabotage them? How many people dream about abundance but think in scarcity every single day? Scarcity thinking is subtle. It doesn't always say, "I will fail." Sometimes it says, "There isn't enough. If they win, I lose. I need it now. I can't wait." Scarcity compares. Scarcity reacts emotionally to other people's success. But wealth thinking is different. Wealth thinking is calm. It understands that opportunity is created, not stolen. It understands that value generates income. It understands that patience compounds. A wealthy mind does not panic when money leaves. It focuses on why money comes. Because if you understand the source, you stop fearing the flow. Most people focus on outcomes. The wealthy focus on inputs. Most people ask, "How can I make more?" The wealthy ask, "How can I become more valuable?" Value is leverage, and leverage creates income. Money flows toward value. It does not flow toward desperation. When you chase money emotionally, you make impulsive decisions. Short-term thinking, risk without calculation. You trade long-term growth for short-term relief. But a wealthy mind thinks differently. It thinks in decades. It thinks in systems. It thinks in assets, not appearances. A poor mindset wants to look rich. A wealthy mindset wants to build quietly. One spends to impress. The other invests to expand. One seeks validation. The other seeks autonomy. Autonomy is real wealth. The ability to choose your time. The ability to choose your environment. The ability to say no without fear. And that level of freedom is built internally before it appears externally. If you do not control your impulses, money will control you. If you cannot delay gratification, you will sacrifice future stability for present pleasure. Wealth requires restraint. It requires the ability to see beyond today, beyond this week, beyond this year. It requires emotional maturity, because money amplifies who you already are. If you are disciplined, money expands your discipline. If you are chaotic, money expands your chaos. This is why mindset matters more than income. Two people can earn the same amount. One builds assets, one builds liabilities, one invests in knowledge, one invests in distractions, one studies opportunities, one studies other people's lifestyles, and 10 years later, their lives look completely different. Not because of luck, but because of thinking. Your financial reality is a reflection of your internal standards. What do you tolerate? What do you spend on? What do you prioritize? Do you spend to escape boredom? Or do you invest to create growth? A wealthy mind is not obsessed with spending. It is obsessed with building skills, building discipline, building networks, building assets, building reputation. Because reputation becomes leverage. Leverage becomes opportunity. Opportunity becomes income. Income becomes assets. Assets become freedom. But it starts long before money appears. It starts in silence, in study, in delayed gratification, in saying no, in choosing growth over comfort. Comfort is expensive. Discipline is profitable. Most people choose comfort daily. Scrolling instead of studying, complaining instead of building, spending instead of investing, reacting instead of planning. And then they blame the economy. They blame circumstances. They blame luck. But wealth is rarely random. It is accumulated through invisible habits, daily decisions, internal conversations, private discipline. A wealthy mind asks better questions. Not how do I get rich fast, but how do I create sustainable value? Not how can I impress, but how can I expand? Not what do I want now, but what will matter in 10 years. Time perspective separates amateurs from builders. If you extend your timeline, your decisions improve automatically. Because urgency fades and clarity increases. When you think long-term, you stop chasing noise. You stop reacting to trends emotionally. You stop copying what looks successful. Instead, you begin constructing your own path. Construction takes time, and time requires patience. Patience is a financial skill, because compounding only works for those who wait. Money compounds. Skills compound. Reputation compounds. Relationships compound, but only if you remain consistent. Consistency is boring, and most people avoid boring. But boring creates stability. Stability creates growth. Growth creates wealth. The wealthy mind understands that progress is often invisible at first. You water them, you see nothing, but beneath the surface, roots are forming. If you quit because you see no immediate results, you destroy your own harvest. Wealth requires faith in process, not blind faith. Disciplined faith. Faith backed by action. Faith backed by study. Faith backed by strategy. You do not need to be loud to build wealth. In fact, silence is often an advantage. When you are not trying to show off, you can focus on scaling. When you are not spending to impress, you can allocate to grow. When you are not reacting to every financial fear, you can think clearly. Clarity protects capital. Emotion destroys it. Fear sells at the bottom. Greed buys at the top. Impulse erodes margins, but discipline multiplies outcomes. A wealthy mind trains itself to act based on logic, not mood. Mood changes daily. Principles do not. If your financial decisions depend on how you feel, your finances will fluctuate with your emotions. But if your decisions depend on principles, your results stabilize. Principles create structure. Structure creates predictability. Predictability creates growth. Growth creates wealth. Money is not the goal. Freedom is. Stability is. Control is. And control begins internally. If you cannot control spending, control emotions, control impulses, control reactions, money will expose that weakness. This is why wealth begins in the mind. Not because mindset magically produces money, but because mindset determines behavior. Behavior determines habits.